What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this, I wanted to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar moving forward. Very important factors involving Tesla, and what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I break down Devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a few things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000 in total, you're guaranteed 15 of them in total. And the offer ends very, very soon, in just about 3 weeks from now. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening to Tesla. Looking at Tesla, we got this nice little uptrend approaching this 260 area. And since then, Tesla's been consolidating closer to about 250. Tesla's still in this consolidation phase, so we'll be watching some very, very key levels. And then don't forget, we have Jerome Powell's testimony tomorrow. I'll be talking about all of that before I break down these charts. So just note that tomorrow is going to be Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. At 9:15 a.m., we have Bard from the Fed giving a speech, which is very minor. At 10 o'clock a.m., we have Jerome Powell giving his testimony. That's going to be very important. Then at 11:30 a.m., we have some bill auctions, not to mention Bowman giving a speech at 1:30 p.m. So the most important thing will be Jerome Powell's testimony. What is this? What does this mean for the markets? Let me give you some information. So Powell is going to be giving his testimony once again in front of Congress and also other very important committee members. And it's going to be very, very key. He's going to be in front of many different lawmakers on Tuesday and Wednesday of the week, where he's going to be facing a lot of questions about monetary policy and banking regulations. He's also going to be talking about the fight against high inflation, and he's going to be talking about how his policies affect the cost of living for everyday Americans. There's also going to be a lot of talk about the banking area, interest rates, and different factors like that, and how these things will end up affecting small businesses. But the most important thing worth mentioning is that Jerome Powell is going to be questioned. He's going to be answering lots of questions. This implies that there's a strong possibility that the guy might be kind of like getting off script. He may not have to always, he can't just read off a paper. He has to actually answer some questions. And this could lead to some very, very interesting things. If Jerome Powell is very, very dovish, if he just keeps saying the same things about how everything's going to be fine, we shouldn't worry. The Fed is once again, it has inflation under control. There's been progress being made, and etc. The market could continue to soar. It's going to likely continue to rally. But if Jerome Powell slips and says something very hawkish, if he says something like, there's a lot of work that has to be done, they're not ready for cuts quite yet, or if he mentions anything about a recession, the market may not like that, and that could lead to some kind of downtrend. Now, as of right now, we haven't seen Jerome Powell say a recession is on the table or anything like that. That's going to be coming. So that's looking less likely, but we'll just have to wait and see just to be safe. Now, for other factors involving the markets, just notes that for earnings, there's not much coming out. Everything's very minor for tomorrow and Wednesday. Thursday and Friday is when things become very, very serious. On Thursday, we have PepsiCo, Delta Airlines, and a few more. And then Friday, before the market ends up opening, we have JP Morgan Chase, we have Wells Fargo, we have Citigroup, and a bunch of other important earnings that will cause some high volatility. So the big bank earnings start on Friday. Earnings season is about to kick off. Don't forget about that. For more factors involving the markets, right now we're quite neutral. We're a little bit more close to greed, but we're not quite there yet. Momentum is still extremely greedy as we're seeing a lot of buyers stepping in. On top of this, we also have the puts and call option positioning at extreme greed. Greed is making up the majority of our momentum because of the fact that the puts are continuing to be closed, and a lot more call buyers are just making up the volatility and the overall options chains. And then volatility, at least on the VIX, is also kind of neutral, kind of in the middle. We are still well below our 50 daily moving average, so we'll just have to see how things go. Now, for Tesla, I'm seeing a lot of headlines about how the Tesla Juniper redesign for the Model Y is going to be the refresh, should be coming out soon, as we're starting to see a lot of things that were the same as the Model 3 last year before the refresh happened. So there's a lot of talk right now about the Model Y getting its refresh soon. This is not officially confirmed, but I do believe it's going to happen, at least in the future. Not this year, but most likely like next year or something like that. So that's going to be very important. This could cause a lot of sales to increase for Tesla, and I can't wait to see how things look. On top of this, I just wanted to mention that Tesla stock has notched the 9th straight day of gains. Very, very awesome stuff as it's continuing to push. And we're starting to see all the shares continuing to rise very, very nicely. So it's great news for Tesla, continuing to hold up very well, outperforming lots of its counterparts. On top of this, 157 million was the volume, well above average. Not bad from Tesla whatsoever. Short volume is going down just a little bit, but overall it's still high. And short volume is currently at about 66 million. So once again, I mean, it's still making up a large chunk of the volume and still holding it very, very well. Looking at other indicators, TD Cohen is giving Tesla a hold rating. Other analysts are giving them buy ratings and outperform ratings. So not bad whatsoever. The price price ratio is continuing to climb as Tesla's outperforming the market, holding up very well. In terms of seasonality, we tend to see green about 52% of the time on Tuesdays, which is not too bad. We also tend to see more volatility around 11 o'clock a.m. and also around the second to last hour of the day. So I'll have to see how things end up developing from here. But with that being said, guys, now let's focus on what's going on with Tesla stock and how things look, in my personal opinion. Looking at Tesla, I just want to say that right now we have a very, very strong looking uptrend. We're continuing to make higher highs and higher lows, and Tesla's continuing to outperform many different stocks out there. Now, despite the fact that Tesla's been pushing like this, though, I want to call out that resistance is getting kind of tougher up here at this 250 area. Notice how we hit 260, came back down. Now we're just consolidating. So this just shows that things are getting a little tougher for Tesla, and we may continue to consolidate for a little bit longer. Looking at the 1 hour time frame, you guys could see Tesla's just range bound. It's been trading sideways for quite some time. We got one instance where it kind of pushed for the first 2 hours and came excuse me, it came back down. But then, if anything, it's still holding up very, very well. On top of this, I just wanted to say that with Tesla holding like this, we're just range bound. We're just kind of stuck in this 250 zone. If we lose our 20 EMA, in the 250 area, I'll be looking for a test of this wick around 248 and eventually lower levels. And if we end up getting a nice bounce, I'll be looking for a big push back up towards basically 253. And if that breaks, we're going to be looking for another pump from there. But overall, I mean, a lot of this depends on what Jerome Powell says. And I think we're just going to continue to consolidate for an extended period of time. I think that it's still going to be stuck within a range. And whether we get a bounce or not depends on some stuff that Jerome Powell ends up saying. But looking at the chart, it looks to me like in the morning tomorrow, Tesla will attempt to rebound like it typically does. And I think there's going to be a test of about 256 or so. Then Tesla is going to likely hit resistance very close to about 258, return back down. I think we're going to likely return and just continue to consolidate back to where our 250 range is. So a little pop and drop and then sideways price action is the most likely possibility because we do love to kind of pop. If you look at the last few days, we kind of popped upon open like this. So tomorrow we're going to likely pop again, retest this imbalance up here around 256, come back down and just consolidate for a bit. And then whether or not we get a bigger pushback up to 260 or if we get a big rug pull depends on Jerome Powell. But I find that to be the most likely possibility. Now for SPY is pushing very nicely, looking very, very bullish. If we continue to hold above 556, we're going to be pushing all the way up to about 557.5. If we end up losing support at 556, we'll be dipping back down to about 555, followed by 554.5, then eventually lower levels. But on the 4 hour time frame, SPY is looking more bullish alongside ES. The 30 minutes is actually showing some life. 4 hour is looking very strong so far, especially during the after hours. So this favors upside as a stronger possibility. And then if you look at like ES, I'm just going to pull this up real quick. Looking at ES, we're seeing something very similar. ES is actually pushing right now quite a bit. So if you guys look at ES right now, we're at all-time highs, trying to show some life. So this is actually outperforming, many other of its counterparts too. So this suggests upside is looking more probable. So if Jerome Powell is hawkish tomorrow, we need to lose 454 to turn bearish. If he's more dovish, if Jerome Powell says things the market likes, we're going to be going all the way up to 557.5. What is looking more probable? This chart is favoring going up. It's looking more bullish so far. There's no sign of us losing key levels, so we still look more bullish. For Nvidia, this is trying to rebound a bit. It does look to me like it's trying to hold up. We have a nice looking accumulation structure. This favors 130 as resistance to be tested. If we lose 128, we're going to be dipping back down towards 127, followed by 125. But I favor the upside as a stronger possibility for 130. This chart is looking more bullish in my personal opinion. For Bitcoin looks like it's going to be testing 57,000. If this breaks, we're going all the way up towards about 58,000. If you reject here, we're going to be coming back down towards 55,000. I think there's a big test right now at 57,000. We'll have to see if Bitcoin rejects or not. We're kind of in the middle, but I see a little bit of potential for us to try to get up to about 58,000. I do favor it's going to try to break higher, but just to be safe, watch our 200 EMA for confirmation at 57,000. That's going to be key for how we end up moving. The QQQ is on fire. I think we're going to be testing 500 very, very soon. We'll see if we break 500 or not. That's my target. It looks very, very bullish. If we were to lose 498, we'll be looking for a dip back down to 497. But this chart's favoring upside for 500 as a stronger possibility. For Apple, we're also favoring upside, breaking new all-time highs. If we manage to hold above 228 tomorrow through Jerome Powell's speech, 230 is coming next, and this is looking very, very bullish to me as well. So this is looking more bullish. It looks to me like Apple wants to go all the way up towards 230. It's favoring the upside, so that's looking a lot more probable. With that being said, guys, Tesla's also going to kind of pop a bit upon open tomorrow, tip back down to consolidate for a bit, but most likely it's going to hold up decently. Not saying it's crashing or anything like that, just there might be some consolidation. But overall, like I said, it's still holding up decently, and we'll have to see what Jerome Powell causes for this. Now I'm just going to talk about the other tickers that we have. Looking at Palantir, I'm going to pull up the 4-hour time frame. We called out to 28 yesterday, and lo and behold, that's what happened today. We are looking bullish. It's still making higher highs and higher lows. I wouldn't be surprised if it retests 28 tomorrow and try to break through it. This is looking pretty good, especially with Jerome Powell's speech. Approaching it, it's looking very, very solid. For a few more out there, I just wanted to call out Supermicro. Now, Supermicro managed to break above this trend line. We actually broke through this. That's a good sign of strength. And with this nice accumulation structure, this is favoring continuing to push towards at least 940 plus. If we were to lose 900, I'll be looking for 880, but this is favoring 940 and a break above that. So this looks more bullish in my personal opinion. For Rivian, we're looking more bullish on the 4-hour time frame as well. If we continue to push, I'll be looking at this wick right here around this 15.8 to 16 area. So I favor that the 4-hour is favoring upside for 16. If we lose 14.66, I'll be looking for 13.7, but this chart's favoring 16 plus right now, in my opinion. SoFi has a head and shoulders like structure. If we were to continue to fall, I'll be looking for basically 6.25. This is looking a little bit weaker, so I might see a little bit of a dip. So we'll have to see how things go from there. But that's something that worth noting. I think the big bank earnings will have another big effect on this. The IWM Russell 2000 ended up dipping a bit on Friday, only to rebound again. So now technicals have shifted back up. This is favoring a test of 204. If we end up losing 201.5, we're going to be dipping back down to 200, but this favors 204 as a stronger possibility. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. For AMD, AMD is continuing to push very, very nicely. We have this resistance to be watching for around 183.5. I think that AMD is going to be testing 180 to 183.5, so it looks more bullish to me. ARM is also trying to push up higher. I think that there's a good chance we go all the way up towards that 190 resistance. We're looking pretty bullish, so I do favor that push. And overall, AMD is doing a great job on the 4-hour time frame. For Coinbase, Coinbase is also trying to break out right over here. It really depends if we can break this trend line or not. If we reject here, we're going to be coming back down towards 215. If we break through this, we're going back up towards 220. Actually, 230 is going to be our next target if we break through that. So I'll be watching to see. We have a double bottom leg structure. If this breaks, look for a big push. If we reject here, we're going to be coming back down. This is favoring upside a little bit more, in my personal opinion. For Amazon, we had a bullish wedge that was forming. We kind of struggled to break through it. I could adjust this a bit, so it is still possible we try to break through this, but I want to see Amazon break and hold or even close above 200. If we do that, 202 is coming, then eventually 205. If we fail to do so, we're going to be dipping back down to 198 and then 194. We'll be watching to see how we end up reacting to 200, maybe depending on what Jerome Powell says tomorrow. But look for 200 to be tested, see if you reject or not. That's going to be key. For Meta, we're kind of turning on the 4-hour. If we do end up dipping lower, I'll be looking for a test of our 20 EMA. This also confluences with our previous resistance right over here at this 523 area. So I think it's very likely we come down to about 523 to 525, then we bounce off that. So look for a little bit more downside on Meta before we try to bounce. So far, so good. Not looking too bad though. It's still holding up decently. Look for a little dip, then a bounce is the most likely possibility. For Microsoft, if we manage to break past 468, we're going to be looking for basically 470. Overall, the technicals do look more bullish, and this has a lot more upside potential, in my opinion. So I'll be looking to see if we end up going all the way up to about 470 a share. Google's also holding up, kind of consolidating in this 190 area, excuse me. If we break this, look for 192. If we reject, we're coming back down to 188. So look for some consolidation, see what the big move happens to be. So far, so good from the stock. For GME, if we break past 24.7, we're going to be looking for a big push all the way up towards 25.8. If we reject, we're going to be coming back down towards 23. This favors upside as a stronger possibility, which is where we have this wick. So GME does look like it wants to bounce higher, but look for a big test of 25 and see if we hold or not. AMC is looking a little bit more bullish, trying to break out right over here. If we manage to hold above 5.5 tomorrow, I'm going to be looking for a big push for 5.8. Overall, it's looking a little bit more bullish. Looks like it wants to push a little bit higher, technically speaking, especially after an 8% day. So not bad whatsoever. Now, DJT, this was going to depend a lot on a lot of different things that Jerome Powell says about politics and such. So we'll see what Jerome Powell ends up saying and how it ends up affecting this. If we were to dip lower and lose 29, look for 27. If we break through 31, we're going to be looking for 33.4. We're in the middle. I think it depends a lot on what Jerome Powell says tomorrow. If he does bring up politics or not, that's going to be very, very pivotal for this price action. For the VIX, we're just trading sideways in the middle. We are kind of dipping a little bit, so I do see a risk of some downside for this. This is still favoring upside for the market since the market's holding up very well. So we just have to give this more time just to see how things are progressing. But overall, the VIX is still favoring a more bullish market. The market is still holding up as the VIX is looking weak. The 10-year Treasury yield is going to move depending, on what Jerome Powell ends up saying. If Jerome Powell causes a rug pull for the markets, this might start bouncing because he's going to be more hawkish. If Jerome Powell is more dovish, and this starts dipping lower, then this is going to help the market pump. So we'll be watching to see what the reaction is. Jerome Powell is known for being quite a little bit more on the dovish side as of recently. So we'll see if he ends up continuing that tone. If we break past 105.1, we're going to be pushing all the way up towards about 105.28. Overall, the dollar index is looking a little bit more bullish. So far, so good. We'll see if this breaks or not, but I am seeing some potential, at least in the dollar, at least for the time being. So with that being said, guys, that's it at least for the main tickers. As far as Tesla goes, I think there's going to be an attempt to pop and drop it in the morning, then some more consolidation is what I'd be anticipating. I find that to be the most likely possibility. Overall, it's holding up very well. The market is pushing to new all-time highs, continuing to soar, but whether or not this lasts is going to depend a lot on what Jerome Powell happens to say. Let me just give you guys one important message involving Jerome Powell. I have a lot of friends who are incredible traders. They have different perspectives. So some of them, they don't really like trading when Jerome Powell gives his speeches. When the guy opens his mouth, when he starts speaking, a lot of my friends just don't want to trade, and they're fantastic traders. I have other friends who are great traders who still trade and look for good entries when he ends up speaking. So if you want to trade through his speech, you could, and you could still make great gains if you play it right. If you don't want to do it because there's a lot of trickery, then you could also step aside. It's up to you guys. Just know what the risks are. Let me just note that there is a lot of trickery, a lot of manipulation when Jerome Powell opens his mouth. So just be very, very careful. For the people who are asking, does Jerome Powell's speeches matter? The answer is yes, they do matter. They cause a lot of volatility, very, very big moves. So get ready. If he says anything about inflation or anything that's too negative about that, anything negative about the economy, market could get a rug pull. If the opposite happens, we could continue to soar. So we'll just have to wait and see how it goes. So as a trader, I'm very conscious of what I don't know, right? I don't know what these lawmakers are going to ask Jerome Powell. I don't know exactly what Jerome Powell is going to say. Typically, he has a script to say, but he doesn't always follow the script, especially if he's being questioned. So that makes me imply that I don't truly know. So why should I pretend that I know? Why do I pretend that I know everything that's going to happen? We don't always know. Even if you're the best trader in history, you don't always know what's going to be said by the Fed. So the best thing to do is just, be very, very cautious during a time like this. Stay safe, be very careful with your trades, manage risks, and just wait and see what he says. If you want to trade during his speech, you could maybe scalp it, make some good moves. If not, if you don't feel comfortable doing so, then don't stress yourself out. You know what I mean? Do what you have to do, guys. So that being said, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys so much for your attention. Thank you so much for listening. As far as Tesla goes, one more thing, we're still very bullish overall on Tesla. Even if we are taking a little breather and kind of consolidating for a bit, the chart is still super bullish on the daily time frame. If you look at this, I think there's a lot more upside potential for it. I think Tesla's going to run a lot more. I can't wait to see what else the future holds for it. So we'll see how Tesla goes. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure that's still prevalent. The daily is still very, very strong, and there is so much upside potential for the stock. When you look at the 4-hour time frame with all the after hours showing, Tesla is still very bullish. Look at how it's pushing out very nicely. There's so much upside potential towards all-time highs, and we'll have to see how things go from here. So I still think Tesla could run more. We'll see if it cools off a bit or not before it continues. There's going to be some consolidation coming, so I want to warn you guys about that. Be prepared for some consolidation, but there's going to be a big, very, very, very big move coming, in my opinion, especially as we get closer to earnings. So get ready for that. But with that being said, thank you all so much for listening. I will see you guys again tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow before the market ends up opening, I'll give you guys one more video, and then it all comes down to what Jerome Powell ends up saying. Whatever the guy says is going to cause some crazy volatility, so I want everyone to just be ready, be prepared, and we'll see how things go. So I wish the best for everyone. Take care, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow before the market opens. Tesla to the moon because the long term is still very bright, and peace out.